national anthems. DJ, as we raise up, we are going to have the East African anthem, we are going to have the Uganda national anthem, we are going to have the Buganda anthem.
Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Twesingenyo, olwa Buganda yafe, ekitiibwa kya Buganda kyavada, naffe tukikuumenga.
We can take our seats as we have a prayer of ourselves to God, such that He should lead us through this function. We are going to request one of us from the audience. I think Katoto Musime should come and read the prayer. It's a request. We are requesting here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would request you to humbly stand up and we give a word of prayer. Let us humble ourselves for the word of prayer. Our loving Father, we stand before you this afternoon. We call upon your name to come and be amidst us as we start this journey of launching this book. We call upon your mercy, your faithfulness, your loving and kindness heart. Give us knowledge, wisdom, and courage so that we are able to make a contribution in regards to building this nation. Bless us all through, and we have been able to pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for that short word of prayer. Today we are here to celebrate Alex Wavamunno literature, who had worked with Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba as a personal assistant for 5 years. He is a lawyer by profession, holds a bachelor's degree in laws from Makerere University. He is an advocate of the High Court and all other courts of judicature. He's an author. One of his books. I'm using the word one of his books because now we are launching one among many that are yet to come, which is entitled Under the Wings of Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba. We are going to welcome you, sir, and give us a speech together with your family.
Our distinguished guests, my name is Alex Wavamunno, formerly a personal assistant of the late Professor George. Overwhelmingly happy for your high turn-up. Many of our people are still coming, but for us who are already here, we are proceeding with all the joy for having been mentored by the late Professor Kanyeihamba. He touched many people's hearts, many people's paths, many people's careers. I saw it extremely befitting to write this book. Now, how did I come to write this book? 2 days after he had passed on, someone recognized me as the gentleman who was willing Professor Kanyeihamba. So he said, "For how long did you work with him?" I said, 5 years. He's like, "You should write something." I asked myself, where am I going to start from? But I remembered Professor Kanyeihamba had authored over 40 books. I said, why can't I also write? As a very good reader, I used to always buy books from Aristoc. Professor Kanyeihamba enabled me to enrich my reading culture, so I used to always read. So I knew what to do, even when I thought I didn't know what to do. So when you land on that copy, it has a soul, the copy of my book, Under the Wings of Professor Dr. G.W Kanyeihamba. You will know that my heart can speak. As you read it, you will see me directly speaking to you. You will enjoy it. Now, right about last night, I was here in this hall. At the same time, I was holding my phone. So as I was scrolling through TikTok, there's a song that came up. It's called Balabataliwo. It's by Dan Mugula, that senior citizen. It reminded me of the sad times that have befallen us after Professor Kanyeihamba was called by God. But then today we are here to celebrate the fact that you can see a lawyer in front of you I saw Professor Kanyeihamba when I was hardly done with year one. I think I graduated from LDC last week on 19th June. So I think you can see the fruits of Professor Kanyeihamba. Then lastly, I would love to honor the President of Uganda, the Kabaka of Buganda. I can see is represented heavily by the Honorable Attorney General of Buganda. And Professor Twaha Kawase, who is yet about to join us. We have very many bigwigs here who you're going to see. Some are on the panel, as you see. Some are still coming. As we continue today, feel free to enjoy Alex Wavamunno. Yours truly. Yes, on my right is a man who has toiled to take me through school. Retired Colonel Eddie Muwonge. Also an NRA. Then on my left is my mom, Anne Muwonge. The fact that you see me here, they have put all their life onto me. So please clap for them. Yes. I also would love that they say something small to you. Thank you. Speaks fast. Say.
Good afternoon to you all. As my son has introduced me, I'm retired Colonel Eddie Muwonge, but not tired. Though it is unfortunate today, I have some health issues. Maybe mom will be able to communicate whatever is from the family. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for all coming to celebrate the launch of my son's book, Alex. My heart is filled with an overwhelming sense of pride. As we celebrate this milestone, our hearts also carry a quiet, profound absence. It's exactly 1 year ago, we lost Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba, who was a great friend, and he was an instrumental person in shaping the writer, my son. I know if he were in this room this afternoon, he would be the happiest person. To my son, your mentor's legacy did not end a year ago. It lives on right here, bound in the beautiful book you wrote and in the brilliant future ahead of you. I'm so proud of you, Alex. Yeah. Lastly, I'd like to thank my family for all the love and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. And our retired but not tired Mzee and Mami. I will refer you to Mom, as since you have nurtured someone who can at least try to add something that would build this country. We extend our appreciations, and may the good Lord bless you. Let me take this opportunity to recognize the presence of Honorable Medad Rviga Segona, who is before us. I want to also recognize the presence of Honorable Awich Paula, who is before us. I want to recognize the presence of Professor Rogers Valegayomwe. We are going to continue recognizing the presence of other guests as you join us. Next on our program, we are going to have a communication from Right Honorable Hakana Lugunda, which has not been able to be with us physically, but he has virtually given us his speech. And I think that's next on agenda. Thank you. As they are preparing for the speech, I want to recognize the presence of Honorable Joan Kategaya. You are welcome. Please feel at home.
the Almighty God rest the soul of our comrade, of our elder, of our scholar, and of our political leader, George Kanyeihamba, in eternal peace.
We are going to have a short communication from Honorable Joan Kategaya, who is a senior presidential advisor and one of the great friends of the late Judge Wilson Kanyeihamba. Please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody who is here. As you have rightly heard, my name's they call me Honorable Joan Kategaya. I'm a senior presidential advisor on veteran affairs. I, being one of the actually freedom fighters, and I participated knowing very well what I needed and what this country needed. I'm very privileged to be here today and talk to one of us, because Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba was part of us when we were in the struggle for freedom for this country. And frankly speaking, we didn't know that we would even manage the government which was in place with its machinery. For us to come from schools, no jobs, no money, by then we are not even yet known, and come and just fight the government which was in place with its machinery, government machinery. But it was by God's grace, because the earlier you start something, the more experience you get. And I want today to salute this young man, Alex. I salute you. Because this gentleman, professor we are talking about, he was a no-nonsense man, and he would not take anything for granted. And he was highly intelligent, very, very intelligent. And he could not tolerate half-baked people. If things were not done in full, and they are done half-half, he would even call police and take you to the police station if you are not careful. So to work with him, Alex, was not easy. And I was happy to see you when I met you there, because indeed for us, I didn't start working with him when I became maybe the senior presidential advisor. As I've told you, we came a long way, because him being a lawyer and my husband, they had very close connections, and they used to interact a great deal. So the families, we got to know each other as really part of each other. So when I was appointed senior presidential advisor, he happened to be under my docket. And he came to me to challenge me, see if I could also do half-baked things. And he knew all my life for me, maybe apart from working for Makerere University, I had been working for United Nations, because when we ran away in first exile and we went to Zambia, I joined ILO. And I met quite a number of people of different categories whom I worked with. So when I tell you that someone who is thorough in whatever they do, they expect other people also to be thorough like them. And that was our friend, Professor George William Wilson Kanyeihamba. And he did his he thinks perfectly very well. He didn't want anybody to make a slightest mistake in whatever you were doing. He wrote quite a number of books, and some of them most of you could have seen or have read. I was lucky he used to give me a copy of, I have piles and piles of his books, because he used to ask for a lot of advice from me. And some of it he used to ask me in such a way, judging, trying to find out whether I was going to give him a half-baked answer as well. So I knew, and I never hesitated. I used never to bite my tongue. I always gave him exactly what he wanted, and he was so shocked. That's why we became close and worked together for a long time. So, Alex, let me tell you, the earlier you start, as you have started at that age, see that you could manage to work perfectly well with George Kanyeihamba. I think sky is the limit. It goes without saying. So I would like also to encourage other young people, because some people, young people these days, they think that once you are like my age, or you would have reached this age, you are like a fool because you are mukade. They meet you mukade. And I used to ask them, when if you call me mukade now, what will you call me when I'm on a walking stick? Instead of just at least learning something from you. I was lucky because I grew up with people who were older than my age, and I started very early. And I don't know why I used to get attached and be friends with people who are much older than me. And it helped me to mature early also. And it has brought me this far. So I would advise the youngsters, please don't just look at us with gray hair and wrinkles and think that we are born like that. No, we were also young one time. And old age, we are full of experience and wisdom. So if you get along with old people, if you are lucky they are the right people, you end up doing very well by learning what you would have not learned when you are with the young people or with the people of your age. So please, treasure it. I'd like to thank you once again because, for example, one thing I asked the professor, I said, Professor, what is the meaning of your name? Yes, it's in our language, that name, Kanyeihamba, is like forest. What did you have to do with forest? He said, oh, my mother, when she was expecting me, she had gone to the forest to collect firewood. And when she reached the forest, she got in labor, and she produced him in the forest. And she had gone with maybe like a scarf like this. She wrapped him, and she put him on the back, and then she carried the firewood home. Oh, I said that lady was a very brave person also, because that was either luck or also some knowledge which you acquire somehow, because I don't think at that time she could have been a medical doctor even to know how to help a lady in labor. But God can do wonders, and those people used to do it. So, and he was surprised. He said, why did you ask me such a question? I said, yes, I've always wondered what the name Kanyeihamba meant. And I said exactly what I've told you. I was born in the forest. So someone to come from the, imagine you are born in the forest. He gave me an opportunity and a chance to visit his home in where he's born, in Murubanda. I went deep inside there and I said, if I had been born here, would I have even known to get to Kabali? But from there, and you come until you become a professor, until you do what George Kanyeihamba did. I wish you the best, Alex. And I think, as I already said, sky is the limit. It's good that you could follow in the footsteps and manage to work with Professor George. Frankly speaking, he was not an easy person. He was too intelligent for everybody. He knew literally everything. And when I found this young man there that is working there, I said, I wish you luck. And I thought you wouldn't last long. But now you're there, you are writing like him, and you have acquired a lot of knowledge from him. And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. And I thank you very much. And I thank God for you and for your parents who took trouble to take you to school, to educate you up to that level. And I wish you all the best, and God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Senior Presidential Advisor, for that wonderful words of wisdom. At this juncture, let me take this opportunity to welcome Owekitiibwa Professor Twaha Kawese, the first Deputy Katikkiro of Uganda. You are welcome. Feel at home. We have made some simple amendments in our program, and I wish to air it out. We are going to have, from the next on agenda is panel discussion. From the panel discussion, we are going to have an interaction from the audience and responses. Then we are going to have a speech thereafter. Then we are going to have the official launch and the speech, which will be led by Owekitiibwa Professor Twaha Kawese, the first Deputy Katikkiro of Uganda. At this juncture, let me take this opportunity to welcome my colleague to take you over. All right. Apologies if I made maybe a miscommunication in the name, but it is Owekitiibwa Professor Twaha Kawese. Yes. Sorry for the, I'm very sorry. Apologies for maybe errors in the pronunciation, but we are grateful to host you, sir. Mildred, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocol observed. Because of time, I will not go back, but I recognize all of you in your distinguished capacities. My name is Mildred Tuhaise Ndimulimi. I am a farmer. I always love to introduce myself by that. I am a journalist, and I am more than glad today to be taking on a panel that is talking about someone I interacted with in my professional life, that is as a journalist. As the senior presidential advisor said, he was extremely brilliant, a man to interact with. I do interviews on a daily basis with so many people, but every time we would be having a conversation and Professor's name is suggested as a guest, myself and Simon, who is my co-host, would keep debating. Today it is you to handle Professor. No, I handled him last time. It should be you to handle him. Not because we didn't want to host him, but you had to spend days preparing for an interview with Professor. Aside that, you had to prepare yourself for a lecture before the actual show. It would become even more interesting if you had to go and do the interview at his home. I have colleagues who would say, me, I'm not going to Professor's home. I am not going there. You can handle your friend. One very interesting memory I have is when he wrote a letter summoning me and my co-host. First of all, he asked a question why we have taken so long without inviting him to the show. And then he summoned us to his home. And his last statement was, if you don't come to my home, and he said in bracket, because I know you're not going to come. And he then continued and said, but if you don't come, if I ever die, don't show up at my compound. That was the most interesting thing. I just told Simon, you know what? Let's organize ourselves with all the humility and go and listen to what Prof had to say. And when we went, he really didn't have any bone to pick with us. He just said, I wanted to see you. It has been long. You people don't want to invite me again because you say I critique government a lot. Anyway, long story short, Prof was a very interesting man. He was very humorous, but he was also a very blunt person. He would say it as it was. He didn't need to hide or, have any other thought. He said it as it was. And I think that's a lesson that many of us have picked up from his life. I would like us to take on our panel, which is a very brief panel. And in no particular order, ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite our panelists. And I'll start with Major Awichpola, who is the Director of External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. Let's give him a big round of applause. And of course, Prof was also a historical when it comes to talk about the NRM. Yes, whichever side, I think we have a stair here, please. I will also invite another distinguished man when it comes to oratory skills, and also another one I think who picked off from Prof's kind of life being blunt. He will say it whether you like it or not. It is up to you. That is Honorable Medad Lubega Segona. He will say it as it is. He's the other person I feared when I had just started out my career until I got to understand the kind of man he was and how you had to interview him. He's also intimidating sometimes. He bullied me with my first interview with him, but I got used after all. I would also like to invite from the academia, Professor Rogers Bargayomwe. Give him a big round of applause. He's another one you have to always prepare that two kind of thing in the background, because he will say something and in the control room you have to either mute or he's very blunt as well as he is there. I'd also like to invite Ayebare John Vianney, wherever you are. Ayebare, it's a pleasure having you. Please join the panel. And Kanso Tumusime Kato. Yes, the people who are walking in the footsteps of Prof, the late. And also, I would also like to invite on, this panel has no gender balance except the the host, the moderator. Let me now invite to represent, we did need to have Miss Yvonne Pambara, but we'll have Kemgisha Sharon to represent. Kemgisha Sharon, please, at least now we are getting a bit of the other gender on the panel. And also, I would like to say a special thank you to Alternative Digitalk. Alternative Digital for organizing this, and they are actually ensuring that the other people who are not here are able to get the conversation that we are having right here. I'd like to go straight and very briefly, and I'd like to start with Honorable Medad Segona, who is also mentioned in this book. First of all, just briefly, I know Professor is gone, but he lives with us with the works that he did, and so much around our laws of Uganda, starting off from even just drafting the constitution. What are your memories? What do you remember most about the late Professor G.W Kanyeihamba? We do have a microphone here, and please feel free to use it. I know you quite interacted with him a lot, and it would be foolhardy to say use 10 minutes or 15, but I'll give you about 2 or 3 for that particular phase for now as we start.
I had prepared 4 pages, and now Mildred is saying condense that into the Q&A. Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro wa Buganda, in our midst, Professor Dr. Twa Kigongo Kawase. Kawase is akamba Kawase tekagwako masanda. Oweekitiibwa Christopher Bwanika, the Attorney General of the Kingdom of Buganda. Mama Joan Katega, Senior Presidential Advisor. In a very special way, my family. Musajja mukulu Alex Wavamunno. I think today gives me reason to retire. One, when you start causing me to sit with young people like my son, Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. Barigayomwe Jr. is my son. Mwana wa mchala wange. I marry his auntie. And the distinguished colleagues, Major Awach, Council, and the rest of the panelists. Before I delve into Professor G.W Kanyeihamba, who I saw at a later age, I suspected that Alex was about to be born at some point. Alex is born to my sister Annette, and I saw Alex on day 1. And now what started as a suspicion culminates into so much greatness that we are here to celebrate this evening. I celebrate you, Alex, my son. I celebrate you, Annette, my sister, and your dear husband. Probably at this point, I need to introduce a portion of my family, our big sister, Edith, and your dear husband, John Mary Sebulime. Annette and her husband have been introduced, and the rest of the young ones, Gloria and Tim. Is that sincere? Maybe you're not significant enough to be introduced. I still look at you as toddlers. Turning to Professor G.W Kanyeihamba, who I first met in the courtroom in the Supreme Court in Mengo, where I had been detailed by Honorable Elias Lukwago to go and hold his brief on that fateful morning. And Professor Kanyeihamba told me that the Supreme Court is not a court for adjournments. So together with the late Justice Joseph Mulenga, the late Justice Wilson Sekoko, the late Justice Karokora, and of course under the headship at that time of Justice Benjamin Odoki, I was assigned. Professor Kanyeihamba kindly and graciously offered me 30 minutes to go and read that file outside the courtroom. be back in 30 minutes and represent the client in a matter that I had not participated in the lower courts. And I had just crossed the threshold of 9 months before you practice in courts of judicature. And after my presentation, court adjourned, and he called me to his chambers and gave me a warning, never again to walk into the Supreme Court seeking an adjournment, because the Supreme Court of the land does not adjourn matters. And that was Professor G.W Kanyeihamba. I lived long enough to practice with him. And one remarkable case is where we represented the people you referred to as the rebel MPs, Theodore Sechikubo, Mohamed Nsereko, Wilfred Niwagaba, and the other one was Barnabas Tinka Simile. He was our lead counsel in that matter, and he used every moment of preparation as a lecture room. Let me talk about him in brief. The G.W Katikiro, distinguished guests, members present, learned colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is with both a privilege and profound honor to stand before you on this memorable occasion as we celebrate the launch of this book, Under the Wings of Professor Kanyeihamba. This book is more than just a personal memoir. It is a testament to enduring influence of mentorship, scholarship, integrity, and public service. It captures the extraordinary impact that one remarkable man had on the lives of so many people, privileged and unprivileged, but those who were privileged to work close to him and learn from him. There were a few individuals who lived a life so indelible on the nation than Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba. One was such an individual who distinguished himself as a judge, a constitutional scholar, a teacher, author, statesman, and a fearless defender of justice. I was elated when Mama Joan Kategaya mentioned that they were together fighting for freedom in this country. I was waiting to hear that they remained together up to the time of his death. Probably at the cocktail, you will answer that question. Yet beyond the impressive titles was a man who invested in people, challenged young minds to think critically, and inspired excellence through both word and example. Probably the fruits are explained by our presence tonight. The Holy Scriptures remind us in Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I'm excited to say that we celebrate Alex, who has been sharpened by iron, Professor G.W Kanyeihamba, who sharpened many minds. He believed that knowledge was not meant to be hoarded, but shared, that justice was not merely an academic concept, but a sacred duty. And indeed, he lived that. And that leadership was measured not by authority, but by service. The author of this book has had the rare privilege of serving under Professor G.W Kanyeihamba. The title, Under the Wings of Professor Kanyeihamba, is therefore beautifully symbolic. Wings protect, nurture, guide, and prepare the young soul. Every great mentor understands that true success lies not in creating followers, but in raising future leaders. Through this book, the author pays tribute to a relationship that transformed his outlook on life, law, scholarship, and public service. The Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, and the things you have heard from me among many witnesses entrust to faithful people who will be able to teach others also. This is the very essence of mentorship. Wisdom is prepared and preserved when it is passed from one generation to another. Institutions endure not because buildings remain standing, but because values continue to live in the hearts of those who inherit them. Professor Kanyeihamba exemplified courage. Through his distinguished career, he demonstrated the fidelity to the Constitution and rule of law that must never yield to convenience of or political pressure. His judicial opinions reflected intellectual independence, moral conviction, and unwavering commitment to justice. His writings continue to shape legal scholarship and constitutional discourse, not only in Uganda, but across Africa. When you look across and at the high table, I'm sure you miss the presence of Honorable Mama Miriam Matembe, who is not here. And you know why he is not here. Professor Kanyeihamba, down in the grave, must be grieving. As Martin Luther King Jr., the American civil rights leader, wisely observed, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. For those words fittingly describe Professor Kanyeihamba's remarkable journey. Similarly, we are reminded in the world that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Professor Kanyeihamba believed deeply in the transformative power of education. His classrooms extended beyond university lecture halls, where he taught before I was born. His chambers became places of learning. I have just explained that. His books became classrooms beyond the lecture halls. His conversations became lessons. His life itself became a curriculum. The renowned scientist Isaac Newton once wrote, "If I have seen further, it is by this standing on the shoulders of giants." Every generation advances because someone before them chose to teach, to mentor, and to inspire. This book acknowledges such a giant contributor whose shoulders have enabled many to see further than they would otherwise could. The Bible declares in Proverbs 13:20, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Few opportunities in life compare with walking alongside wisdom. The author's reflections remind us that proximity to greatness carries responsibility. It requires humility to learn, discipline to grow, and courage to carry forward the values one has inherited. I celebrate Alex for walking with the wise and picking wisdom along the way. In today's world, where success is too often measured by wealth, influence, or public recognition, this book reminds us that character remains life's greatest achievement. Integrity cannot be purchased. Wisdom cannot be inherited automatically. Excellence is cultivated through discipline, perseverance, and faithful mentorship. I want to borrow the experience of Mama Joan Kachegai, who said when she met Alex, she thought he was going to stay for a month and quit. Indeed, I must confess, I do not think I would have the patience and perseverance to continue serving under Professor Kanyeihamba, who was so meticulous and indeed called every spade a spade and not a big spoon. The Roman philosopher Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." I congratulate Alex for preparing to meet opportunity and seizing opportunity when it presented itself. The opportunities that came to the author became transformative because they were met with preparation under the careful guidance of a distinguished mentor. Books such as this are an important national resource and serve a national purpose. They preserve history before memory fades. They inspire young professionals who seek examples worth emulating. They remind us that legal profession is ultimately calling dedicated to justice, truth, and service to humanity. I think I could be one of those who would be missing in this room for the environment that everybody smells. As lawyers, judges, scholars, and public servants, we carry sacred responsibility. The law derives its true nobility not from statutes alone, but from the courage of those entrusted to administer it fairly and impartially. Professor Kanyeihamba understood this responsibility. His life continues to challenge us to defend constitutionalism, uphold judicial independence, and protect the dignity of every human being. In the words of our Lord Jesus Christ in Matthew 5:16, remain timeless. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Professor Kanyeihamba allowed his light to shine through scholarship, judicial service, teaching, writing, and mentorship. This light is ignited in others. He ignited in others continues to illuminate many paths long after his own earthly journey has closed. To the author, I extend heartfelt congratulations. By recording these experiences, you have not only honored your mentor, but also rendered a valuable service to future generations. You have ensured that lessons learned under the guidance and wings will continue to inspire many who never had the privilege of meeting him personally. Ladies and gentlemen, as I near conclusion, every generation must decide what kind of legacy they want to leave. Honorable Eria Kategaya wrote a book, Impassioned for Freedom. I would encourage people to read that book. Mama Joan Kategaya. If you reread that book, I know that your advice will be strengthened and encouraged. Reread it, carry the book. If you don't have more copies, I will pay for one copy for my brother, the brother you know that I'm talking about, and you deliver it to him. Young people have invented a way of encouraging us to read, the digital way, where you just press and the book reads itself for you. If that one is needed, I think I could also sponsor that service. Buildings crumble. Titles fade. I think 1 month ago, I was called a member of parliament. Positions are temporary. Edward here is a lieutenant colonel. I think he has had some positions. Now he calls himself retired, but values, ideas, and transformed lives endure forever. The greatest monument any person can build is not one of stone, but one built in the hearts and minds of others. Allow me to conclude before Mildred interrupts, and of course to meet the usual method she has described. The words in Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than a precious ointment. Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba earned a good name through integrity, courage, scholarship, and service. This book is therefore worthy tribute to that legacy. May you, under the wings of Professor George Kanyeihamba, continue to prosper and excel in your new journey as a lawyer and author. May you author so many beautiful books and remain faithful custodian to the values of justice, lifelong students of wisdom, courageous defenders of truth, and generous mentors to those who follow us should define our legacy. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think this is the first panel presentation I've had with Major Witch where I have not pinched him because I believe he's pinched. When Yvonne Pambara is not here. Honorable Miriam Matembe is not here. And they are all absent for the same reason. And I'm also looking around my shoulders to see who is seated next to me and which mischief they are about to commit. Major which will tell us why he remains a major. After the distinguished service, after the academic accolades that I know, by the way, we were in school together. Although I am not this young. And he's a major. I want to celebrate your title. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Once an honorable, always one. And I love when you talk about the fact that positions fade, but legacy lives forever, or the transformation. And I also believe and know that the work that you've done in Parliament will live far beyond you. Let me come to Major Awich. Professor was part of NRM's early intellectual core. And of course, he was part of those that helped shape our constitution as it is. As you give your memories and memoirs of him, I'd also like to know from you, from the movement's perspective or from the ruling party's perspective today, as is, what part of the late professor's constitutional vision do you think Uganda has actually realized, but also what part remains unfinished that would probably, if forever unfinished, would not make him rest in peace?
Thank you so much. Our moderator, I like to stand by the protocol well elaborated by my learned colleague here, because in the list of protocol, there are others which are Buganda specific that I would not bring it out as clearly as he has put it. So I would stand by the protocol that he has said and save time. Only that I would make an addition on Mrs. Kategaya by saying that Kategaya went to the great school I went to. That is the Great Ntare School. And that binds us a lot, because when he was chairman of our All Boys, I was the one running around whenever I would be inviting people. And he was so principled that at one time, he asked me to draft a list, and I forgot, I hope, to put names of some OBs who were at that time not talking very friendly about the movement. Sir Richard was one of them, and Rosindana. So Kategaya looked at the list. He was in this post building. He looked at the list and told me, "Which are you writing, NRM or Ntare All Boys? Go and write a new list." He actually told me, "Go and look for Sir Richard and Rosindana in Kampala Club. Go and tell them I want them. This is not an NRM list. I want All Boys." And that is how good it was. I was also lucky, after Professor Kamuntu chairing, I also became a chair of the All Boys, and for 2 terms. And Professor Rogers is also an OB. So I just wanted Mrs. Kategaya to know that. Now, I've taken note of your question, and it fits into my brief presentation, because my panel attitude was that a book launch, I was going to do a surgery on the book that we are launching, because I read from cover to cover. I had kind of a preferred the scholarly approach, where I would be brutal and truthful even to the author, and I will maybe do it politely. So my view was, in the book, about the author and about what he mentions about Kategaya. So I put it that way. But I like to say that I read your book, and reading itself is listening to somebody. It's like you're sitting here and listening to the author for 2-3 days. And that is a discipline on the reader. But it's also a discipline on the author, because in the book before you wrote, you also read many other books. And that is seen in the references that you make. It means, therefore, while I was disciplined to listen to you for 3 days, you talking to me in your book, but I'm also you are also disciplined to have read others, which I know you keep on reading. So I thank you for that. But I also realize I want to make the author know that a book is a living book. And that is why even in our cherished mustard seed, we have now the third edition. So you will also make a third edition, because a book is a living document. For example, if you are going to make your fourth edition, try to think. I like the author to try to think whether Kinkizi is a district or not. To my understanding, Kinkizi is inside Kanungu. But also, you'd want to, I like to appreciate that in your book, you gave a lot of exposure to challenges in primary school. I was actually saying, oh my God, Savio is one of the best, but the challenges that you exposed, maybe it would make PTA and Board of Governors draw nearer to the school to check, because it seems there are so many challenges that go silent there among the children that the PTA and the board need to see, because outside you wouldn't see that kind of challenge that you talked about. Again, I also noticed that in part of your presentation, you mentioned somewhere that there are 2 brains, you and Professor, 2 good brains. Mrs. Kanyeihamba, did you go to Bweranyanji? I mean, Kategaya, did you go to Bweranyanji? Yes. Now, Manya Mushega used to give us an example of a self-praise that you shouldn't. Mushega used to give us an example that there was a girl who said that once upon a time, Bweranyanji had very beautiful girls. Then they asked her that, how about these days? These days, there's only me, Betty, and Kategaya said, no. I mean, Mushega said, no, you don't count yourself. Let others count you. But I noticed they also said there were 2 brains, him and Kanyeihamba. I also noticed the respect in your book for the old age, because you said that Kanyeihamba worked hard at 80 years. It's true, you have that great respect, and that's why you kept near him. I keep telling the young, you know, there are some young people who think it is an insult to say you are old. They think he has insulted you by saying, you old man or old woman. Then I'm like, come on, if you told me that, what have I passed to reach here? Will you? I have passed here. In my case, I've dodged bullets. I've dodged motor accidents. I've dodged malaria. I've dodged plane crashes. I've even dodged HIV. And you're saying I am old. Will you dodge those things? First dodge them, reach where I am, and say it is an insult. And maybe this now makes me mention what my land friend was saying. We were in law school together, but I'm older. Why? Because by some historical accident, I was involved in the liberation struggle with NRA, with Museveni. Therefore, in 86, when we captured power, I was one of the Kadogo project, the child soldiers taken back to school. And the primary school was in Makenge in Umbarara. And that is why I ended up in Intari School. By the time I finished Intari School Senior 6, I was a full lieutenant. And I left Makerere University Law School with a captain. So I had dead years, and that's why when I met them, I had many dead years, and therefore I was older than them, but we were together. Now, on the question of why I've remained a major, you know, Council, I am one of those who have been advocating for no change. It is therefore it is contradictory. It is contradictory that I'm saying no change, but I want change here. So if there is no change, so I can't say I don't want change, but then say, by the way, I want change on my shoulders. So it should be no change across the board. But it's okay. Now, about the author, you endeavored a lot to talk about right to bail in your book. You even went to court about right to bail. Right to bail is a very contentious matter in Uganda. I hope in the next edition you do much more surgery on that, because once somebody successfully gets a bail, then the state has no right to appeal. Take, for example, if somebody killed 30 people on the street of Kampala and he gets a bail, he walks away. He has got a bail. This has led to some uncoordinated move by state agencies of rearrest after bail and then maybe try another charge, because the state is looking at you and saying, this man has killed 30 people. He has killed 30 and he has got bail, and I can't even appeal like a state attorney or DPP. So the issue of bail is really contentious. You need to do much more. And remember, there's also nothing called right to bail. People mistake that there's a right to bail. There's no right to bail. There's a right to apply. You only have a right to apply for a bail, not a right to bail. And people keep saying, no, he said my right to bail, my right to bail. No, right to apply. But the most contradictory part is that once somebody has successfully got a bail, the state has nothing. And that is why the state has been meandering around and trying to make arrests, which is a very unresolved thing, maybe in criminal justice process and jurisprudence. Now, I want to make Tuesi's work easy by summarizing. Now, about Professor, you made so much comment about him. You acknowledge he's brutally honest. He was Chancellor KIU. One time we were at a function in KIU, two functions. The earlier function, he had said Basaja Balaba is such a hard-working man that he shouldn't be called Basaja Balaba. He should be called Basaja Bakola because he works. Now, in the second graduation, Professor Kabwejere said Basaja Balaba should be called Basaja Bakola. Kanyeihamba stood up and said, no, that is intellectual dishonesty. You quote me. He told Kabwejere, you quote me. I'm the one who said it. He said, I said it in the last graduation. Now, how do you stand up and say it yourself? He told Kabwejere that Kabwejere should have said, as I quote Professor Kanyeihamba, Basaja Balaba should be called Basaja Bakola. Yes. So you can see how brutally honest he was. In golf course here, he used to have issues with caddies who carry bags, because there are some people who had a tendency of unprincipledly tipping caddies. And the professor would say, but the rule is there. You want me to break the rules? And it would be a big issue in golf. Say, but the rule is saying this. Why do you want me to pay you more? So it was that brutally honest. The other aspect that you could have brought in, that you brought, Miley, that I wish you could strengthen it, is the aspect of drafting Kenyan constitution. Kenyan constitution demonstrate a case of a professor is not known in his own hometown. The way Kenyans take Kanyeihamba is not the way we take it. Kenyans are proud of one of the best constitutions. And who did it? Kanyeihamba and Professor, a Ugandan also. This our senior counsel. But Kanyeihamba is known in Kenya. It really demonstrates a case of a prophet is not known in his own hometown. Even Jesus, where Jesus was born, everybody knew this guy is a son of Joseph. In fact, he carries timber with his father. You know, his father was a carpenter. And then you tell me he's a son of God. But when you go to another town, oh, he's a son of God. So the case of Kenyan constitution, which has stood the test of time, need to be brought out. You brought it out in your book, but it's so cardinal because in Kenya, Kanyeihamba has such a high respect, and it demonstrates a prophet is not known in his own hometown. The other thing is on the Nobel Prize. He was nominated. Nobel Prize is such a global recognition. I would wish in your subsequent edition that you explain the circumstances under which he was nominated and people he was nominated with. Because even if he didn't win, by mere nomination, it's such a big thing. A Nobel Prize. I mean, if our musicians are nominated for an award in America and they don't win and they think it's so big, how about a Nobel Prize? You have had musicians who are just nominated for an award and it didn't get. So you could throw more light on this Nobel, the reason, and the other candidates that he was with. On the Constitution now, and maybe how NRM knows him. He was the chairman drafting, you put it in your book. One thing comes out that was never in our jurisprudence before, that Kanyeihamba drafted, and you brought it clearly in your book. You know, maybe you didn't bring it clearly. You could consider it. Article 44. Article 44 is a no-go area. Tojikwata. Although I know Honorable Segona will say, why are you touching it? Segona will say, I'm touching. Article 44 says provisions in human rights that should not be touched. And there are few. One, slavery. Under no circumstance in Uganda can you say, Okello, or Kurut, or Mukasa is my slave. Even if you are Museveni. It is total prohibition. The other one is right to habeas corpus. If your husband was arrested and not seen, and you go, you ask for a right to habeas corpus, it's really saying bring the body. Corpse in law is like you would say corpse like we use in dead body, but corpus is really body. Bring the body here. And that is a right. That cannot be derogated from. The other one is freedom from torture. In the past, if in Utuke, the court charged Okello for stealing chicken, the court could order canes, strokes, and what we call the Gwangwen, the askari, the local askari would be called in court to cane Okello. In court. These days, no more. And finally, a fair hearing. Hear him. Under all circumstances, hear him. Even if you have twins, Wasu and Kato accuses the other of doing this to him, you can't beat or discipline or do whatever to the other without hearing. And of course, even some wrongdoers are hiding these days under it. If you take administrative move, even if it's wrong, say, I was not heard. I was not heard, and you can walk away with it. So this, which was a center of the Bill of Rights, was a creation of Kanyeihamba. It had never been there before. It is a strong pillar in our jurisprudence, and it should be really, really recognized. Therefore, in NRM, Kanyeihamba portrays two things. One, a fact that in a unity, there's contradictions. In a unity, even in this case I'm handling, there's a cohesion where there's a tendency of the particles to fly away, and yet there's a tendency to hold it together, and it makes this. So there is always contradictions, and these are always seen in the way Kanyeihamba, even when he was in cabinet, would argue out his case. But what matters is how it is resolved. Once you resolve a contradiction, you move to a second level. The other thing is, of course, that Kanyeihamba poses or stands as an outstanding cadre, and that is why the author also recognizes that President Museveni recognizes him, and they went to State House, and Museveni personally said that if you don't recognize people for their good work, it demoralizes even the potential people who should do the same. So that is how we look at Kanyeihamba. He's a good pillar for the movement. He set jurisprudence. He carried the movement at its initial stage, and possibly that is why at that time we enjoyed the popularity and the love that was enduring.
Okay.
I therefore like to say, Council, that at 80 years, somebody can perform like Kanyeihamba was performing. And therefore, our party chairman is still performing very well at that same age.
I love the what is going on, and I love that you sat next to each other. I don't know whether you were truthful by the no change on the shoulder, but maybe over. Like Council said, we will also be able to. Let me get to Professor Barigayome. If we remember, or many people, especially those who were students of Professor Kanyeihamba, remember him for his fearless classroom style. He used to challenge his students. He would encourage independent thinking, but also would quote history. And of course, the author does mention it that when he first met Prof, it felt like he was drinking from a cup of a history book or something like that. But coming to you, what do you think are some of the pedagogical lessons that institutions like Makerere University can actually be able to take as they continue to train judges, lawyers, and all caliber of professionals? As you also give your own account of your memory of the late professor.
Thank you, Mildred. Owekitiibwa, the guest of honor, all protocol observed. Thank you, Alex, for the invitation and the honor for me to come and talk at this book launch. I bring basically the balance between the old and the young. All the people on my right have mentored me. Major Awich Pola mentored me back in Intari School as a debater. I'm proud of you. Owekitiibwa Medard Segona mentored me from the times of Makerere University, and he happened to be my father now, father figure. So I'm really honored. The guest speaker, Honorable Dr. Rugunda, is one of my father figures. And I'm lucky I've mentored all these one-on-one. Some who are not in the house, like Miriam Matembe, Honorable, has mentored me. I mentored Yvonne Pambala. We were together one time in Cavalry Preparatory School. And now speaking to the audience, especially young scholars, and represent, of course, institution, I liked, even as I answer your question, I liked your chapter 5, Alex, which says that I picked the spirit. Some people might be fooled. The spirit can never die. You pick the spirit. Once someone picks the spirit, we are settled. And this room, all of us, including 2 panelists, didn't come because of fear. But the spirit was picked by Alex. And when someone picks the spirit, we are settled. You cannot kill people's spirits. And there is no need for fear. The Professor Kanyeihamba grew up in the hills of Kigezi, where, like I've told you, I went to Cavalry Preparatory School, where I happened to have been trained also in my early primary. And Kanyeihamba, whenever he would come to Cavalry District, because he was a scholar and he was inspiring many young people, we used to pick the spirit. Just like I would encourage you people to pick the spirit of Medard Segona, though he's my father, let me call him like that. Pick the spirit of Awich Pola. And I believe Honorable Medard Segona picked the spirit of Honorable Rukwago, so that when Honorable Rukwago is not here, the spirit is there. You cannot manipulate the spirit. I come from the same position as Alex. Alex picked the spirit. We are lucky. And Alex, thank you that you picked the spirit, even the writing spirit. Not only, you didn't pick only the writing spirit, you also picked the spirit of the retired colonel. I see a good picture of retired colonel on this page. Is it you, father and mother? It is only today that I knew I'm somehow related to Alex. I'm proud of you. But you see, your father and mother is in between. Yeah, what I wouldn't say, many of you on the street fear to say, but now what you are calling Uganda's problem. But when you pick the spirit, then even if you go, the spirit will come on. It will stay. At one time, my own father in a classroom with Elia Kategaya and Yoweri Museveni in a classroom of Ntare School 1B, where I interacted, we picked their spirit. And at one time, when Elia Kategaya, who was President Museveni's best friend and effective number 2 of the NRM, tried to oppose, and then the boss was not afraid, was not happy, and he went back, and people like Kategaya wrote, people like Kategaya and Kanyeihamba started writing the history for us to learn. And for me, I didn't mind when Honorable Kategaya went back. I said, no, that was his friend. He should have gone back. Yes, I don't mind. But people picked the spirit. It was the same actually with my own father when he opposed his classmate, the president. And for him, up to now, he's retired in the village. I picked the spirit. And indeed, their generation, like the Mama and Babazis, cannot talk to their elder estate man, but we picked the spirit, and we are here to say enough is enough. And even if I left today, even if you arrested me, you cannot arrest all the 4,000 people maybe have mentored, like Kanyeihamba has already mentored us, and we are mentoring you to do the right thing. President Museveni, Kategaya, Rugunda mentored us, so we will do the right thing they did, and we won't do the wrong things. So we won't actually, if we do the wrong thing, then we have betrayed them. The part of the right on chapter 4, on your chapter 5, it was the constitutional right to apply for bail for capital offenses. Imagine, it was several years, and his effort with Professor Kanyeihamba to challenge many people, many even high court judges who didn't want it to happen. He challenged the Attorney General. You talked about that. And imagine having to go, you know, our courts of laws these days, manipulation and stuff like that. Because I'm one of the people who trains lawyers at the university, but when they come into practice, you also, when you come, you cannot understand what they are doing. It's so amazing. The practice is different, and especially these days. So you let them do their work. But it's so timely that at that time they envisaged a time like this. And you imagine, a soul of a man does not die. Though may his soul rest in peace, his work is relevant to us now. And it is being amplified by a person he mentored. That's why it is good to mentor people. Universities need to mentor. And right now, that is basically the center of debate. Professor said that he was in the theme of chapter 4, he talks about the pen and the gun debate, whereby he told most of the people who are frustrating his legal work that the pen is greater than the gun. Then, but right now, of course, some theorists, like my mentor, Major Witch, could say that now the gun is stronger than the pen. That debate goes on, young people. But us at the academic institution, we are saying, make sure the pen, because even when you see those people who carry the gun, they first held the pen very well. And therefore, you can challenge them still using the pen. But of course, from my theological background, I say, love, perfect love casts away all fear. 1 John 4:18. I think we should love those people, both of the pen and of the gun. And Professor Kanyeihamba was so rooted into his religious belief that it made him, even what you don't know, when I read these pages, I realized he was so rooted in his religious beliefs. And young people, instead of fear, get rooted in God. So, what do we talk about this mentorship? Prof Kanyeihamba and the people I mentor and all you young people gave what, in the time he served us, he gave his all time to mentor. And remember now, even like my mentor, which Paula said, when his year mates or age mates rejected his mentorship because they say he was so sophisticated, he took the mentorship to people like Alex. And we are benefiting because of that kind of mentorship. But I remember my interaction, I was doing my second doctorate in South Africa, and I was supposed to write about the obstacles of creation of an African criminal court. And because Professor Kanyeihamba had served in the African Court of Justice, I had to spend about a week with him one-on-one. But his wealth of knowledge, I mean, such a person giving his time to young people, to mentor, and he would reveal many things, even like you all said, when he's mentoring you, he would reveal many issues. One of them which came up, I remember he had an issue with the Chief Justice that time, and that was Honorable Bat Katulebe, who he knew now he's my uncle. So he teased me. He said, "Oh, I've been looking for the Chief Justice," because he had issues with him. And he's like, because all of them, his colleagues, feared his calls. the Chief Justice, the President, they wouldn't speak his numbers, his calls. And now he said, now you call your uncle Bat Katulebe. Now it was very hard for me, because now I would have called, and so I tried to call, and I was praying that he doesn't pick the number, because he would have had the voice of Justice Katulebe, Kanyeihamba, but good enough, the call didn't go through. But to answer your question and to summarize, what we pick in the academia from Professor Kanyeihamba, Professor Kanyeihamba challenged us. He wrote many books. And Alex, I challenge you, don't stop. In your lifetime, actually write as many books as Kanyeihamba. But again, he mentored the young people, because he knew that's where the future of Uganda is, within these young people. So whatever resistance which comes, when people are mentored, when we are well mentored, and when we are respectful of people who have mentored us, then that's where people like Mama Kategaya, that's where even their fruit will not fall. That's where we will not lose from their revolution. However, if we resist mentorship as young people, if we don't respect the old people, then we lose many years which we will never receive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. You talk about mentorship and also respect, which is very, very true. The spirit lives on, and we need to start picking, but don't pick the wrong spirit as well, because that's also possible for people to pick the wrong spirit. Let me ask Council to Msime. When we remember professors' judgments, they were famous and still are famous for clarity, very famous for history and moral force. As you look back on his work and reflect on what his life was, what are some of his judicial principles that you still find are reliable and should live on? Like Professor Barigamo said, the spirit lives on.
Well, thank you. I will observe the protocol as has been laid. And good evening to you all. There are quite a number of decisions and judgments Professor made, and each day you would visit him. He usually had one of the books that had a number of decisions he made. But there is one famous case which was criminal that he decided when he was still a judge of the High Court. It used to pain him so much that he realized many years after retirement that there was a mistake done and he couldn't go to correct it. When the man was in jail because of that decision, following the issue that it was a murder case, that when the evaluation of evidence was being done, everybody at the panel ignored the issue that it had rained that evening and it was a village. So therefore, anyone who would have participated in that murder case would have come back home with either mud, and in case of shoes, the shoes would be very dirty and that could be the identifier. But everybody ignored it. But as a reader he used to revisit some of his decisions he made while still at the bench. And that's when he realized that mistake. He kept on calling for help, but nobody could at the time. He died talking about that case. And I think many of us here who interacted with him intensively understand that matter. But before you go to the other judgment, Professor would love to meet somebody who had read one or two of his books. That would be the first questions. Young man, have you read my books? And if your answer would be no, he would first chase you away for a minute and then later call you and give you one or two. But he loved giving out the book, The Blessings and the Joy of Being Who You Are. He loved giving that book because of the story that was behind. So my first interaction with Professor, he asked me the same, but I had studied and read the book, The Constitutional Law and Politics of Uganda at the time, back in at Milo School. So he was very happy that I read the book. He gave me a number of them, and that was the story. So he kept putting me around because I used to visit him with my other colleagues, Norman here, and the TikTok team to do some interviews. And he loved the fact that I was a lawyer even when I had not finished my LDC. But he used to call me each and every day to help him write a number of letters, help him go through reading the newspapers and all that. But a man as he was, he never wanted people to be stepped on, and he would not keep quiet to see that somebody is being disrespected because they have no one they can talk to at the time. There is a moment when his driver, David, used to drive that small pickup. And I don't know what happened that day, but he was stopped by police at Katwe. They impounded the pickup vehicle. So Professor called me at around 10. He said, he used to call me my lawyer. My lawyer, where are you? I said, Professor, I'm at the office. He said, run to my home now. Of course, when Professor told you that, unless you never wanted to see him again, he wouldn't hesitate. So the best thing would be to run to his home and see what is happening. Because he would not brief you of why he needs you, but he actually hope that you should be ready at any time he calls. And what he respected most is that when he called and he told him, Professor, I am going to court, he would say, after your court session, come home. I need you. But if you told him I'm working on some client, say, leave that client. I'm also your client. Come home. So when they impounded that vehicle, it was taken in the parking, and the driver was explaining to them, this is Professor's vehicle. They said, Toka, what Professor are you telling us? So we met him and drove to police. There was a scene there asking them if they knew what he had done for this country at the time and all that history. For them to deny his driver who had explained, who had all things that were required by the traffic, who was going to the hospital to pick for him drugs, but you are now impounding the vehicle because he has not given you a token. And that driver had recorded the conversation between him and the traffic officers when they were asking, so how are you leaving us? Here you have third party, you have the permit, but how are you leaving us? We reached everywhere in that office, and he was making calls. He called the press there. It was you know, a fight. But later, when they released that vehicle, because they reached the point of saying, Professor, we are very sorry. I think the head of the traffic in Uganda police came at that station to harmonize the situation. Some of the two officers who were asking for the bribe, I don't know where they are, but they must have been punished by their systems. So when they released the car, we had two cars, the Land Cruiser and that pickup vehicle. There was one driver, I remember I had Norman, him, Betty the helper, and David. So he looked at us, he said, but you young men, can any one of you know how to drive? Because the two vehicles were all manual vehicles. When we talk about manual, young people here may not know what it means. But it had a gear shift and all that. So majority in our age do not really know how to drive that vehicle. Then he asked, my lawyer, do you know how to drive, or you are like crazy as many young people in this age? I said, I know how to drive. He said, okay, you drive. So we drove from Katwe to his home, and he said, I am very surprised that at your age you know how to drive this vehicle. And your phone should never go off because you are my second driver and my lawyer. But why am I saying that? That what annoyed him was the injustice that was going on in the country in terms of if you did not have any person to call to help you. Even when you had all the requirements as a driver, you couldn't leave the two police officers who had stopped the vehicle because they wanted something from you. He fought that to the end. And he used to tell most of the young people that he would see never to be cowards, to speak about the injustice that is happening. He used to say that if you don't speak about the injustice now, it will be late for you to speak about it when you are a victim. And it still rings a bell in my head. I am glad that we are having so many young people here, and this is something you should copy, even when some of you might not have had an opportunity to interact with the professor. But if you offer yourself to speak about injustice, don't be a coward, because you might realize late when you are a victim. A number of the judgment I will always talk about, and when I was doing my LLB, my research at LDC, he inspired me a lot to do research about presidential election petitions in East Africa. It is a judgment he made, actually a finding, because he did not think that in presidential elections, petitions, judges were required to make judgments. He wrote a small book explaining Article 104 of the Constitution about challenging a presidential election petition. That was one of the judgment. One of the decisions he made, and he was very bitter when he read in the news people quote that there has been a judgment in regards to presidential election petition. He said, no, the spirit of Article 104 and the wordings are clear that what is required from the judges is to inquire on what transpired in election cycle, come up with their own findings, but not rely on the evidence that is presented before them by the either parties. And then after making an inquiry, you do your investigation as a judge because you have been in the country, you have followed how the campaigns have been flowing, you have followed and watched how different presidential candidates were treated. You must have an idea of how an election has been conducted, on whether it was free and fair or not. And that you would come out with the findings that you would read to the public depending on your investigations and inquiry made. So that's one of the most that lived to linger around my mind in terms of the decisions he made among the many. That even up to now, judges still produced judgments instead of findings in presidential election petitions. And he was against that. There is a book, I don't know who has a copy or where people can get copies from, but I think through digital team, people can get copies of challenging the presidential election petitions, strictly about Article 104. Then the last one, in around 2019, 2020, 21, there were a number of enforced disappearances, missing people, people that would be captured and taken where nobody knows. And there were a number of applications to the High Court for habeas corpus. So Professor would be reading his newspapers and find that there has been this order given in respect of habeas corpus, but the government and the police and UPDF would file a return to the writ saying that we would have no idea of where this person is. It would disturb him and he would question on whether we are practicing the law that is in the books or we are practicing what we want to practice, or whether we have the judges that know the law they want to use in making decisions or not. But it kept on coming here and there in terms of the freedom from torture, the right to make bail applications, even when it is not mandatory that after applying for bail, you should get the bail. But there is a discretionary power of the magistrate or the judge to grant or not to grant. And they are giving conditions. Now the worries of Major Awich here, of that the state has no right to challenge bail once it is granted. It is that once any of the conditions that are laid down by the judge or the magistrate in granting you bail are breached, then you have a recourse to go to the same magistrate or judicial officer to have the bail cancelled. Lastly, I would talk about the book itself. And the most touching chapter for me.
Very briefly, yes.
Yeah. The most touching chapter for me, one here, Doctor has talked about it, but it is the journey through Chigezi and how he was proud of the place he came from and not fearing to show it up to the rest of the people so that they can get motivated to do something that would not make them hate where they come from and also tell people about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very well. If you don't have roots, cannot have fruits on the top. Let me get to Ayebare John. I know that our time is really getting fast spent, but I'd like to listen from you on your memories, what remains inked on not just your mind, but your life from the life of Prof, and also what you pick up from the book, Under the Wings of the Great Man Who Rested.
Thank you, Mildred. My name is John Vienna Ayebare. I am a lawyer. I'm the immediate last guild president for the LDC Kampala campus. I served in the same term where my colleague and the author, Wavamunno Alex, served as a guild president for LDC Lira campus. So I congratulate him upon this good work. And I've always been wondering, how did you manage to write this with the schedule at LDC? In your book, you're saying you started writing and when you were for clerkship, and that was even before the final exams. So I really commend you for this. I come from Chinchizi, but not Chinchizi constituency as where Kanyeihamba was born. Now it is a district like which highlighted, but I had not known, surprisingly, and that is, I think, lack of, diligence on my part, that Kanyeihamba was born in Chinawa. Chinawa is now part of a sub-county in Kanungu district. So I've learned that from this book. The memories, mainly my only time to meet Professor was earlier in, I think, 2020, 2021, around there. We had just been admitted to law school at Makerere University, and COVID had put us on a wait. So I said, but there is a gentleman, a distinguished jurist, judge, I've been hearing all the time. And when I encountered Solomon Nabuyanda, he's our colleague, I saw him in touch with Kanyeihamba. I said I would like to meet him. I organized a group of students. Alex Wavamunno was already there. We went, met him. Surprisingly, he gave us about 7 hours. And after that interaction, I felt that I could mop that lake nearby his residence. The energy that we gathered from that session was unstoppable. I will not tell you that because of that, I had to go to Kanunga and contest on LC5 chairperson. To remove the obvious, I lost. People were looking at me and saying, this young man wants to be a district chairman, a governor of the district. We are not going to vote for you. And they refused. They could not force them. I could not tell them that I have the knowledge imparted to me by Kanyeihamba. But that influence, I realized it became unstoppable. In the first year at Makerere University, I read that book, which he has also read, Constitutional and Political History of Uganda from 1894 up to present. Kanyeihamba is a storyteller that once you start reading his books, for those who have not yet read, you will not stop. It was my first time to read the book from cover to cover and again read it 3 times. The influence keeps on working on your mind. Indeed, just like Kato, for my research, I did research on the impact of violence on election results. Because that question is still puzzling me. I did research, but I didn't get answers. My conclusions in that research are that it is impossible to tell how much violence is required to either make one a winner or make one a loser. And that was also influenced by Professor's view that there is a certain section in the Presidential Elections Act which says the Supreme Court, for it to annul a presidential election, that court must prove, the petitioner must prove his case to a certain substantial level, the substantial test. Yeah. So how much violence is required to say it is substantial enough? Now we can annul an election. I did research. I have no answers. I can share the research with some people who are willing to read it, but up to now I have no answers. Which is why the most interesting part in this book is also, for me, it is chapter 6, which is on challenging a presidential election. Inquiry into a presidential election. Does the Supreme Court inquire into an election? That was always the first question Professor asked students of law once they visited him. Because in his view, it shouldn't be the petitioner to prove his case. Their role is to bring it to the Supreme Court, and then the court will be able to ask. It can even summon a given official and ask, did you do this? Didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? And then they make findings to come to a conclusion. Having in mind that time is much spent, I want really to commend Alex Wavamunno for writing this, and I'm going to commend it to colleagues to continue reading it. We've already started, and I see most of our colleagues are here. The old guard, we don't disrespect you when we say old man, you know, because you can see we are rushing to Kanyeihamba to harvest some knowledge. So if young people are not coming to you, or if you feel that you're offended when they say old man or old lady, it means there is something to check. Because this is evidence that old men are what? Are very useful and very wise. Otherwise, I thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Vianney. Definitely, if people are not, if the bees are not coming to a particular flower, there is no nectar there. Or the flower probably is not bright enough to attract the bees. Now I'm speaking like the farmer that I am. Let me get to Kemigisha, Sharon. Your experience, but also I know that you've had a bit of the book. What interests you the most to share?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. Protocol observed. I'm Sharon Kemigisha, former woman councillor representing the people of Wandege at the division of Kawempe. I'm a humanitarian activist and a one-time author of The Beast in the East. And through this book, I was privileged that I met Professor for only one time in life. So being on such a panel and as a lady and sitting into the shoes of the tables of the two powerful women, Yvonne Mapambano and Honorable Milia Matembe, who happen not to be here because of what we could say that they are fearing for their lives of events that are happening in our country. And to be honest with you, when I was told to come and sit into this space, I was challenged. Being that I met the big man, the old man only for one time, and it was because I had went to his place to just introduce myself and tell him about the book that I had wrote, The Beast in the Beast. Its content is all about the labor externalization that happens to be a vice to our generation, because we all know that it is into our generation that we've seen so many young women who travel from Uganda to go to the Arab world to look for greener pasture. When I'm asked to speak about the life of Professor, on my visit, at the time I had to visit him, he gifted me a book entitled The Blessing and the Joy of Being Who You Are. Whenever I face certain challenges in life, I go back and read this book, because indeed, as one of the panelists say, that Professor was a storyteller, and not only telling stories, but stories that would keep on impacting generations and generations. That poses so many questions to us as people that belong to this generation. We are a blessed generation that maybe lacks direction. When you look at some of the panelists here, when you look at Honorable Segona, they've built a very strong pillar of comradeship during their times of politics, whereby at this time, when you see him coming as a leading council in the case of the former Lord Mayor, it poses a challenge to us as the young generation and young politicians who think we've been given platform to cause change as we need it in the country. So to me, being on this panel, I will not hesitate to say that I'm challenged. And to those who know me, I'm a very talkative person, but I still have a lot to learn. That is why I should say that I'm out of words, apart from sitting back and learn so many things. You kept on talking about picking up the spirits, leaving along the bad spirits that we have to pick. But one of the things that I've had to learn from the late professor was picking up the spirit of being, having a bloodline of a Bachiga side. Because it somehow gives you the power to stand and defend what is right. No matter if you're standing around, but you have to say what is right has to be done in a right way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you actually remind me of something that also our previous speakers actually talked about. That is the Right Honorable Rugonda. And that's exactly when he was speaking about something that also the author wrote, the friendship between the late professor and Savasaja. It talks about friendship that goes beyond circumstance. And that's exactly also what Honorable Medad taught me. I remember when he was giving a speech, he was on a totally different side of the political divide. And then he attended, of course, a Thanksgiving of his friend, the former leader of opposition. And he said, there is nothing on earth, no matter how big or small, that will come between my friendship. We can have differences on other things, but the comradeship remains. And that's exactly what you were talking about. I am not surprised right now when I see him in that case representing a colleague, a friend that they've been with forever.
Exactly. That is what we have to learn as a generation, because through a friend of mine that introduced me to activism, it is through, I don't know if Norman is around.
Yes.
Through him, someone that I got to meet along the way of my activism activities that I used to do. That is how I met Professor. I come from a very humble background, and I normally call myself the ghetto girl because I'm born and raised in Kawempe. So no one knew that with all, growing up in the ghetto as a girl is like being an underdog. In the room, I happened to be sharing this room with a friend of mine that I sat P7 with, Honorable Swabula. So she's someone that I normally refer to because she clearly know where we've come from.
Okay.
We've not had chances as a ghetto girls to go to these good schools, but it takes you to spot out the people that you want to be like, who comes from the high ends of the sides of livelihood, so that you can maneuver and see a clear picture of what you want to be in life.
Okay.
So through Norman, I got to meet a professor. So if I had not met Norman,
you would never met.
Where will I even have a chance of being on such a panel speaking about a powerful man like him?
Definitely true. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to the panel. This is that kind of, you want to have for 10 hours, but time cannot be able to allow that. But probably before I say bye to them, I'll give just 3 opportunities. Yes, I already have a hand up there, and I have a second one, and I have a third one. And I think I will be done with that. Let me move the mic for purposes of time. Let's be as brief as possible.
Yes, good evening, all of you. First up, the names of Kaside Sendagere Muhammad, who happens to be the Lord Mayor aspirant, NRM, in the past elections. Though I was cheated by my own party, to those who know me, I always say that. I would like first to salute Owechitibwa Katikiro Kamwase, Mama Kategaya, and of course the panel. But I have only 2 questions to my senior boss, Mr. Awich. I would like first to appreciate him to be in this room, because at first I thought maybe he would run away for the questions. My first question would be, at what point does NRM recognize, appreciate works done by Ugandans that have kept government in check? Like, for instance, your annexee, that is Mr. Segona. At what point does NRM recognize? Because I've had Major Awich talking about how NRM knows and recognizes Professor the late. And the other, which is the last, is President Museveni at 40 years in power. besides the Uganda he has built, that is the infrastructure, where we have come from, our GDP, does he also worry of the Uganda he will leave for us, meaning our generation, if we are kept alive? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll move on next.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Protocol observed. My name is Sekayaza Mike, and I'm a law student at Kampala International University. I happen to be the managing partner of a student-based law firm under the names of Kanyeihamba and Company Advocates. As well, I serve as the vice president of FIDA Uganda, KIU chapter. So the love between justice and human rights blends within. Well, mine goes to my senior and mentor, Counsel Kato. He spoke of a case that was decided by Justice Kanyeihamba, the murder case in the High Court, and I would like to capture it, then I go read it. Another thing, he spoke of the book that highlights the challenging of Article 100.02.04, and I too have a copy of that book, and I had you inquire if there is anyone with a copy so that you can replicate and then have multiple copies. I do have one that was signed by the late professor. Another thing, as the farm, we are organizing a memorial run in memory of Professor. That is the Kanyeihamba Memorial Run, and it is happening on 18th of July. Being well aware that Professor died in July 14th, we want to commemorate his activities by giving him a run. And okay, yeah, I think that is it I have. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I hope we'll be ready to attend the run, especially for us who are attending.
Thank you so much, Mildred. My name is Mutesasira Expirito Mpologoma, the immediate Guild President Emeritus of LDC, Mbarara Campus. My comments will be few. One, I want to thank our able panel and all the guests present today. But allow me contradict a little with our elder father figure, the Honorable Awich. He kind of tried to challenge the right to apply for bail. The man that you praised so much, the subject matter that brings us today under one roof, died having petitioned the Constitutional Court, challenging the amendment that intended to kind of do away with the right to apply for bail. But we respect the views. And to the Honorable OHT Wameda Dulvega Segona, thank you for inspiring the young generation. I am that young boy that took a picture with you in Kawanda at the Kwanjula of the Honorable Kasibante. I am a lawyer because of you. I'm here to write a book. And to my fellow young people and everyone around today, we always want to get free things from our friends. That's how we appreciate. I would request, people write books because they are authors, but also to get something. There is only one way that we can appreciate His Excellency Emeritus Wavamunno, and that is by buying a book. I've been told that now the price used to take care. That is like a lunch to most of you young lawyers. And if you want money, start behaving like you already have. So, Wavamunno, today I'll go with my copy. Thank you so much.
Just 50,000 and you will have. I will pass the mic. I think I'll start with Major Witch as we conclude on this one. Okay, there's one here. Yes.
Thank you so much for the questions given to me. My colleague who was unfortunately cheated in NRM, we're a young democracy, internal democracy we are developing, so don't give up. But you had thought I would not be here and fear questions. I don't fear questions. You see, in the north during the war with Kony, the rebel arrested an elder and started asking him questions. Then the Mzee said, please, me, I fear questions. Then the rebels asked him, which questions do you fear? Then the man said, you have already started. The very thing I fear. But the philosophy behind them, that was that at that point, the rank and file of UPDF was also mainly northerners. The rebels themselves mainly were Cholis. So you wouldn't be sure who you are talking to, because the rebels themselves and ask you, have you seen these chicken thieves? Asking you if you always report them when UPDF come. So when you tell them, yes, the chicken thieves passed here, they had only 5 guns. So the Mzee said, I don't want questions. Why? You have already started. Because you're not sure who you're talking to. But for me, I don't fear questions. So therefore, your question was, at what point does NRM start to recognize people who critique? Even either way, at all points, at any time. You know very well that people who have been talking as opposition have joined government. That is itself a recognition. We knew that the former speaker, Triple A, and Tayeba were all from opposition. That is recognition. If you look across cabinet, nearly all of them, I mean, majority are from the opposition and they are recognized. In fact, for some of us who have grown up in NRA, we take it easy because even in NRA, we would, I think Colonel is aware about it. Even those who join from other forces or captured, we would salute them because they are now our funded. So for me, I'm used to it. So that is itself recognition. But institutionally, even when you join on either side, there's already an act of parliament to give awards. And there's a word committee. We hope that they do their work judiciously. And that's why you hear people getting medals. Whether there's fraud there, I don't know. But that is an institutional framework of recognizing. And even at lower level, many people have been recognized from criticisms to deputy RDC and RDC. So that is it. Recognition is there. About the worry about Museveni and Uganda. Museveni loves the country and it takes due recognition, and that is why he tries as much as possible to build institutions, the institution of the judiciary, the institution of courts, whatever it is, the institution of parliament, many institutions and legal framework. That is one attempt to worry about Uganda, just in case for the future. The bail, me what I'm talking about the bail is just, that is what it is. I am repeating that if a bail is granted, DPP cannot apply to appeal that the judicial officer reverses the bail. No. You can't, a bail cannot be granted by a chief magistrate and you go to high court to counsel to apply, to appeal to counsel. No. It is given. That's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm saying it poses jurisprudence problem. Mildred, I know this is my last time to handle this microphone, but the low-hanging ones. One, the spirit, Rogers, I appreciate that we get spirit from Professor. And we are lucky that it's a good spirit. I was sharing with council here that in Nigeria one time, there was a governor who was transferred. And when he was transferred, yet he had been a bad governor in that state. So when they threw a party to thank him for going, he said, I'm leaving you in body, but I'm going to stay with you in spirit. Then people started whispering, said, God has saved us, has taken you. Again, you're leaving your spirit. Go with your spirit. So it is good that we are taking a good spirit from Professor, and that is good. The role of science, author, you talked about the role of science. Please emphasize on it. Science really saves society. Even slavery. Some people will tell you that the Christianity preached against slavery. No, it is science which saved us. Because the job then, technology had come that you needed people in factories, people who had read. So there was no way you could compel a slave to do such work. So it is science which saves us. It is science which liberates us. And even the American hegemony, Iran war, science has liberated the world. So science is good. And in the next edition, I emphasize more.
Okay.
The role of the people around Professor, you could see Ukurut, you could see Sebutosi, and that in your book came out that Professor was for everybody. Some people, even a mere nurse, he would want to pick his tribe, get a Michiga. Even what? Get a Michiga. Even this get a Michiga. But Professor had Ukurut, who and everybody. In my office, I have about 5 officers, none of them is a Langi. Finally, author, I appeared many times in your book, but you don't mention me.
Okay.
On the panel where Honorable Mao is, I am the last person. Please also in the next edition say there's a director from NR. And in the Thanksgiving in Namirembe Thanksgiving, I was there. Why don't you also mention that the director from NRM was there? So that everybody is in there. I thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you'll pass the mic to Honorable Medad. I don't know if you had a question, but you would also give your parting
I
shots.
know why Awich would fear questions, because he does not have answers. But he claims he does not fear questions. No, really, no questions were sent to me, but Awich provoked me when he talked about the right to bail and right to apply for bail. I belong to the school of thought that think bail is a right for those that qualify. You can only say bail is not a right if you read the Constitution piecemeal. Bail has its foundation in Article 23 of the Constitution. It's about freedom. We were all born free. These are which people you see are the only ones that are putting us on chains. If you were to read Article 23 together with 28 of the Constitution, 23 guarantees freedom. 28 guarantees innocence. Every innocent person is supposed to be free. Only those that are convicts are not meant to be free. The catchword here, the condition here is 1, convince court that with the suspicion hanging around your neck, if we release you on bail, society will be safe. And this is a school of thought that has been judicially propelled by Justice Lugaizi, and I agree with him. That is why I have over the years challenged the provisions of Section 14, 15, and 16 of the Trial on Indictments Act. The import of those sections is that the person seeking to be released on bail has a duty to give justification, where you're talking about old age, grave illness certified by a medical officer from Uganda prisons, and a certificate of no objection from the Director of Public Prosecutions. I have opposed that school of thought. I have no duty to justify my freedom. The state has a duty to justify the restriction on my freedom of movement. And indeed, the courts have skillfully said those conditions in sections 14, 15 are not mandatory. But, I mean, you saw with Lukwago's case, I can talk about it because Lukwago's bail application is not before court. Where the magistrate agrees, and it started actually with Dr. Besige, Justice Kanya, Rosette Kanya, said, one, he has satisfied the condition that he's a man of advanced age. He has a fixed place of abode, and so on and so forth, substantial sureties. But then he's charged with a grave offense. In other words, today, if the government wants to keep you incarcerated, all they need to do is to make an allegation of a grave nature. So that's why, for me, I insist the state should accept the duty to say, Awich is a dangerous man. If we release him, he will interfere with witnesses. But, how do I even know your witnesses? I'll give you a personal example. I am on bail for the last 17 years. 17 years. My daughter, who I was expecting, is now 17. When they kidnapped me with Katikiro Maiga and Honorable Namboze, they took us around, charged us with so many offenses, including recruiting rebels in Kagadi on my wedding day. A wedding which was in Namirembe. Now, I came back and got bail 17 years down the road. The state has never prosecuted me. You get the point? So you need to tell those people, if they will understand anyway, that it is their duty to prosecute those that they take to court. How I wish you had clearly understood in practical terms the import of Article 44 that Professor Kanyeihamba introduced in our Constitution. The rule against torture, when someone can randomly go on Twitter and everywhere and say, tonight is time for kiboko. Tonight, someone is not going to sleep. I am going to beat, and so on and so forth. And you say, for you are satisfied with your majorship? No. If you want no change, then the person who was recruited as an LDU should have remained an LDU. Okay, let me salute colleagues that have participated in this panel discussion.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And let me very finally comment on two things. One, how NRM recognizes people who make contributions. Oh, when? You said when? When they die. I attended the wedding of a young man we were working with at Parliament. And everybody, the NRM bigwigs came and they were praising, oh, your father gave us cows. Actually, he never gave them cows. They stole them. You remember, you know how you used to steal our cows and chicken. They stole them. Then they said, oh, in fact, you have reminded us now that your father died. And we took 350 of his cows. We are going to tell the committee, the awards committee, to prepare a medal for him. Now, after 40 years in power, having stolen the man's cows and eaten them, you remember him with a medal. That is your answer, your question answered. So he said he condoled with somebody who was cheated in NRM. Surely, I have no sympathies for you who was cheated in NRM. Because you see, inherently, you know that NRM cheats, don't you? So, thank you, Alex, for bringing us together. Thank you for doing what we, your parents, have failed to do. People say I went to school. I have not written except where the exam requires me to present something in writing. But with your writing, I did not see on, there is something called a launch. I think your
Yes,
colleague,
we're
the
going to do
president,
the
said
launch
there's a
immediately. Yeah.
Thank you very much and have a
Okay.
blessed evening.
Councillor Tomusime, I think you had something. Just do that briefly. Let the mic be passed over as we conclude.
Yeah, mine is small about the murder case. I think I did not have it off head, but I have it
Okay.
somewhere and I will share. Then
Mm.
lastly, I now get the fear and maybe the thinking behind the decisions that are made while determining on whether somebody qualifies for bail or not. When Major Awich talks about the fear that the state has no right to appeal against the decision made in a bail ruling, now decides and makes me think of, do they first have a discussion that because they fear that the state has no right to appeal, then we shouldn't release this person on bail? But my senior has addressed it so well and I don't want to add it. But to say, in whatever is happening, I think Major Awich should maybe continue to tell the people about Article 44 in his party, including the old man and the structures in the UPDF and whatever it may be. To tell them that these rights are non-derogable, not negotiable. Freedom from torture, right habeas corpus, fair hearing, and they must be respected. I thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think Sharon will have just some 30 seconds to do your parting shots, and then I'll go to Ayebare and then Prof.
Thank you so much. My parting shots will be in kind of a reflection. When you look at the people who are seated in this room, we are almost in the same age bracket compared to our elders. I want to give a thank of votes to Wavamunno. When we talked about picking a good spirit, thank you for picking a good spirit from the professor, and that goes back to us, considering the careers that we choose to take and the people that we look at. What good spirits are we picking? Let it be a reflection to all of us that have had a chance to attend this book launch. Go back and reflect the kind of spirit that you're picking.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me pass it to Vianney.
Thank you very much. I was very happy to see a retired Colonel Eddie Mwonge and Miss Annie Mwonge, who are well written about in chapter 1 of the book, and was imagining who are those people who took Wava to the first school and he faced all these challenges. So he felt should punish you somehow. Thank you very much. The punishment is recognition for giving us an intelligent person. I was at LDC on Monday. There was a session on peer review on mental health, and they said, one of the mental health practitioners said, one of the causes of mental health in Uganda is people being too intelligent. So you should keep reminding me and Wava to check on our mental health workers once in a while. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
Prof.
you. And my parting shot is in support of Alex. Indeed, we should buy as many copies and to improve on the reading culture in this nation. When I was talking to Professor Kanyeihamba, and this time in reference to the Article 104, Part 3 of the Presidential Inquiry, he used to say, and this we talked as PhDs, he used to say, one of the reasons why the judges, lawyers run away from inquiry is because of lack of research skills. So I encourage the young people, the young lawyers, don't be content with your first degree, LDC, go and do research. Then we will have well-researched lawyers, do your masters, do your doctorates, so that you can be good researchers and you inquire into. Because his argument was, sometimes before even we go to these presidential elections, or somehow a judge would be knowing so much information, remember, like him, he would make good judgment because he would have a lot of information through research, not necessarily depending on those 45 or 2 days of an election. So I encourage the young lawyers after the LDC, please advance your knowledge, your inquiry skills, and you will get that spirit. Thank you. And indeed, I also expect you to advance your skills. Thank you very much. I'll also support your cause by buying several copies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A very big thank you. We can make pronouncements right now. Yes, please.
When the book is launched, I can make pronouncement 50,000.
Let's say after, because yes.
I can buy 2 copies, one for the youngest female and for the youngest male who will read. So I will buy and donate because already I bought before. So after the launch, I'm buying 2 books.
Yes.
And I donate to the young ones.
Okay. Very, very perfect. This reminds me of being at weddings of our relatives from the West, where it gets to a point of nakwat. That, not that one. Okay, let's please give a round of applause to our panel. I officially dismiss. Honorable Medad was complaining about the yellow pen in front of him, but if you paid attention to the table, we have yellow, green, red, blue. We made sure everyone is well covered. All right, I would like to call back my the co-host, because right now we're going to go into the official launch that our guest will definitely be launching. Then we cut that cake and call it quits, because we already have actually lost about an hour. Please, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's buy the books. Only 50,000.
Thank you, MC. Let me take this on an opportunity to recognize the presence of DHO Luchiga. It is Luchiga, Mr. Kevin Vukenya. Thank you for attending. At this juncture, I take this on a great opportunity to welcome OHT Professor Twaha Kawase, the first deputy Katikiro of Uganda, who is representing the Kavaka of Uganda to come before us, launch the book, and give us his final remarks. You're welcome, sir. Yes. You launch first, then you give your remarks.
Let's kindly have that book in the middle so we can do the official launch. I will request to have Daddy and Mom please draw closer. Mrs. Kategaya, please draw closer as well. It would be an honor for you to be as close.
So this is the moment, as the boat is balanced, that we officially declare launched the book entitled Under the Wings of Professor Dr. G.W Kanyeihamba, a memoir of a former personal assistant, that is Wavamunno Alex. Yes, we officially unveil Wechtiwa. Oh yes, bigger round of applause. And you officially append the signature, your signature, on that book. On behalf of Kabaka, I always remind people there is no Kabaka Ovu. It is just the Kabaka, because there is no other kingdom that uses that as a title for the head. Thank you very much, Owechtiwa. Thank you so much for sparing your time. Our regards to His Majesty. And of course, we've not forgotten the love that has been clearly expressed in the book that he had with the late professor. Daddy appends the signature as well. What a joy and honor for a parent to witness such moments. Some of you or some of us make our parents cry, but may the good Lord never give that chance to have you cry because of what you have done. And also, as Vianney said, going to have any mental health issues because of brilliance, especially for Alex. And immediately after the signatures, the rest of us will actually also be. I request that also a part of the panel will also append the signature. And before Wechtiwa takes to speak, I am kindly requesting that we'll stand to take a photo right there and request all the panelists to come and have a photo moment. We can always do the signing briefly after. I don't know where Uncle Segona has gone, but I think he has just stepped out a bit. Let's have this group picture. And thereafter, Owechtiwa Kawase will be speaking to us. And that will be the final speech. We'll cut the cake and then take back our anthems. All right, let the panelists step aside as Owechtiwa stays for just one more. The family members, please. Let's have all the family members of Alex, please come. Sharon was not there, but at least I'm calling a picture for family members, and Uncle Segona is here. Please, our family members, all the aunties and the uncles of Alex, this would be, yes, please. All the uncles, aunties of Alex, the siblings, please, let's take to this beautiful moment. This is not just for Alex, but it is also for the family. It is not just for Alex, but it is also for the family. Major said he's buying a picture for the youngest, and I think I've seen the youngest female in this gathering. I don't know whether that youngest female will be able to read the book, but at least I've seen the youngest. Please, let's have the family in and all right, thank you so much. And very lastly, just the author and the guest of honor. Because yes, I know in the next editions, the author will probably say, in the first edition, it was officially launched by the first Deputy Prime Minister of Buganda. That will be the last one, and we'll have Owechtiwa taking to the stand and speaking to us.
Thank you very much. We are ready to listen from you, OHTW. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
I could comfortably say that I'm going to stand on the protocols. However, there is no way I cannot fail to recognize OHT Christopher Bwanika, who is our Auditor, Attorney General of the Kingdom of Buganda. And of course, who now? OHT made a Disegona Honorable. Once OHT always OHT, and there is no equivalence. I can't say OHT equals honorable. No. OHT is OHT. Honorable John Kategaya. And of course, now all our other panelists, I salute you. Colonel and Mrs. Eddie Mwonge, our parents. The author, this young man here, Council Alex, and Mildred, the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. By show of hands, can I know how many of us are not lawyers? Not lawyers. Okay, colleagues. I would have said welcome to the bar, but I can't welcome you. However, I could be a professor, and a professor I am. We should always honor the people who represent us, because they are the only one who are allowed to represent us, because they're the landy people. So clap for the lawyers in here. Lawyers, thank you so much for honoring Alex. I say this young man, I want you to know that my boss, OHT Charles Peter Maiga, is not here, but he's a lawyer. He's on leave. It pleased the Kabaka. It was the Kabaka who was invited, actually. Alex invited Savasaja Kabaka. And Alex, Savasaja Kabaka, actually it pleased him and directed that OHT Charles Peter Maiga has to be here, because it's the Katikiro. He said the Katikiro should go. But as luck will have it, Katikiro was on leave. And guess who? Another lawyer had to be here to mingle with the landy friends. So thanks for giving me an opportunity. Alex, once I saw Savasaja Kabaka's card, because now it came through the protocols and ended on my table, I called Alex to my office. What a nice young man. Alex actually came. I said, Alex, do you know what you've done? You've invited Kabaka, and it's not every day that Savasaja Kabaka is invited. But you, thanks to your being so close to Professor Kanyeihamba, he took it personally and ensured that we come here. So we are here to represent Savasaja Kabaka. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to speak in the King's language, but you will allow me later on to paraphrase to the the Luganda so that they can also get to know in depth what is transpiring here. So it gives us great honor and pleasure from Buganda Kingdom to attend this great occasion, marking the launch of the book under the wings of Professor G.W Kanyeihamba, which has been authored in very kind words of Alex Wavamunno. Indeed, it's a day of remembrance of a great son of Uganda, a world-class legal scholar and a jurist who did not only love his country, Uganda, but loved Kabaka, Ssaabasajja Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II and the people of Buganda. This is a place where he settled and lived for many years. Professor Kanyeihamba supported Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi and the Buganda Kingdom in many ways, through acts of love, gifts, donations, and above all, kind guidance. In many respects, he gave advice and he related very well with the Kingdom of Buganda. Therefore, I stand here to convey His Majesty the Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi's personal message to the family, friends, and colleagues of Professor Kanyeihamba, that Uganda and Buganda have very fond memories of the indomitable and great legal icon and gentleman who will forever be missed. Thank you, Mr. Wavamunno Alex, for the well-written memoir, which brings our great friend back to life through the pages. Thank you for actually also honoring Ssaabasajja Kabaka through chapter 7 of your book. These wings under which you are or you were are not the wings of a small bird which forms my totem. It's called the lark, ennyonyi endiisa. Neither are they the wings of the biggest a bird on earth, the ostrich. These are wings of an angel. The angel touched you, Alex. And it is the angel, Professor Kanyeihamba, Professor Kanyeihamba, that has touched so many lives, including our panelists here, including everybody here. And it's continuing touching lives. Professor, you're a professor, I think, to be soon. I'm aware. Segona, OHT. Quoted the Bible. I may be a Hajj, but I'm going to quote a Bible as well. I'm going for Job 14:7, chapter 14, verse 7. Job. It says, at least there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its new shoots will not fail. Professor Kanyeihamba may be gone, but we are seeing the fruits and the shoots in the likes of Alex Wavamunno. He will continue to live forever and ever. Amen. May the Professor G.W Kanyeihamba continue to rest in eternal peace. I said, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit in Luganda. Abaami n'abakyala mwenna abakuŋŋaanye wano ku mukolo guno. Nyimiridde wano kubanga Ssaabasajja Kabaka yasiimye oluvannyuma lw'okufuna kaadi ng'eva wa Alex Wavamunno okujja ku mukolo guno, n'asiima Katikkiro abeerewo. Naye nno bannange, Katikkiro ali muki? Muliifu. Kaakati the second in line ayina kubeera first deputy Katikkiro, n'olwekyo ne mbeera wano. Ng'Obwakabaka bwa Buganda tuli basanyufu nnyo okubeerawo ku mukolo guno, nga tutongoza ekitabo wansi w'ebiwaawaatiro, under the wings wansi w'ebiwaawaatiro bya Professor Dr. G.W Kanyeihamba, ekiwandiikiddwa mu bigambo ebinyuvu eba ebinyuma okusoma, Counsel Alex Wavamunno. Olwaleero nga tujjukira omu ku mpologoma batabani ba Uganda, omuwandiisi, munnamateeka, lawyer atawunyikamu, yayagala nnyo ensi ye Uganda, era tukimanyi yayagala nnyo ne Ssaabasajja Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi owookubiri, yali mukwano gwe nfanfe. Yayagala nnyo abantu ba Buganda, era yasenga mu Buganda, era aziikiddwa wa? Mu Buganda we base. Okumala emyaka mingi, kati oyinza okugamba emirembe n'emirembe, amiina, musajja wa Ssaabasajja Kabaka, paka lwe tusinkana mu jjana oba mu ggulu ku mukono gwa Katonda ogwa ddyo. Professor Kanyeihamba yawagira nnyo Ssaabasajja Kabaka Muwenda Mutebi n'Obwakabaka bwa Buganda mu ngeri nnyingi. Yamwagala, yamuwa ebirabo, yamuwa amagezi, ate era n'awabula nnyo ku nsonga z'Obwakabaka bwa Buganda ne biki bye tukola. Olwekyo nnyimiridde wano nga mbatuusaako obubaka bwa Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi eri famire ya Professor, mikwano gye ne bantu bonna baakoze nabo, ne Uganda yonna ne Buganda. Titujja kumujjukiranga nnyo Professor nti mpologoma, era muntu munnamateeka ow'amaanyi. Tujjanga kuba nti tetusobola kumwerabira. Tukwebaza nnyo Wavamunno Alex olw'ebigambo bye wayogedde, bye wawandiise mu kitabo kyo, ng'obijja ku ngeri gye walabamu Professor ebbanga ly'omala naye. Kituyambye nnyo, omuntu bw'asoma by'owandiise osobola okulaba Professor George Kanyeihamba ng'akubyewo mu bulamu ng'oyise mu kusoma by'owandiise. Ate tukwebaza okuba nti wawaddeyo chapter namba 7, chapter ey'omusanvu eyogera omukwano gwa Professor gw'alina ne Ssaabasajja Kabaka. Weebale nnyo, weebalire ddala. Omutwe gwe wawadde ekitabo kyo wansi w'ebiwaawaatiro ebya Professor George Kanyeihamba, owambakatiddwa ekiwaawaatiro ekisinga, si buwaawaatiro waatiro, si kawaawaatiro ak'ennyonyi endiisa, akasonyi ak'ennyonyi endiisa gye neddira, that is my totem. Si kawaawaatiro si kiwaawaatiro ky'amaaya, omunyonyi okusinga obunene ku nsi kuno, wabula kiwaawaatiro kya malayika gwe tulaba Professor George Kanyeihamba. Awaawaatidde abalooya be tulabye wano, awaawaatidde abantu abayitirivu mu Uganda muno ne Buganda. Nga Oweekitiibwa Sseggona bwe yagenze mu Bayibuli, nange ngenze mu Nnabbi Yobu 14:7. Kale gwe omuti gwo gwesiimye, ti bwe bagutema gusobola okukola ki? Okuddawo. Nga guyita mu ndokwa ezitasobola kulemererwa. N'olwekyo mu ndokwa Professor George Kanyeihamba ayinza okuba yafa, era yafa, naye ebibala bye bijja kgenda mu maaso nga bimera. Ekimu ku byo ye Alex Wavamunno. Profesa Kanyeihamba, wummula mirembe. All right, just shortly before Owekitiibwa gets to sit, tusaba Owekitiibwa tusale keeki eyo omukolo tubeere nga tuguggadde era nga womaliriza okwogerako naffe. We will cut the cake as the very final and last bit of our launch. But please, ladies and gentlemen, I know you came through immediately after lunch, but we have a networking tea that we will be more than glad for you to join us. Please do not leave because after all, there is jam. Even when you leave now, to Jabasangam jam, or we may end up arriving at the same time. So you either chose to stay with us or go to jam. All right, as we cut and say congratulations to a well thought and well written book under the wings of Professor Dr. G.W Kanyeihamba, and we officially get to cut the cake. DJ, which song do you play at that point? All right, Alex and our guests, let's officially cut the cake, remembering not just the book that has been launched today, but also the life of Professor Kanyeihamba and the spirit that lives on. Thank you so very much. We'll now request our cake team to help Alex, our author. I know you can clearly see that is not his thing. He doesn't know how to place the knife. So please help him so he can be able to serve the guests. But to the rest of us, please, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue interacting. I just realized that less than 30% of us are non-lawyers. The rest are learned friends. So those of you who are non-lawyers, you have a lot to learn from our friends. Please, once again, after partaking of the cake, join us for tea. Please, I request, join us for tea. Because like I said, and by the way, I'm not joking, there is jam. Today is Friday and you're in the middle of town. So
Join us for tea. Let's have tea together, and then you can be able to. Please get a copy. I would request that each of us gets a copy of the book as we step out. The book is only 50,000 shillings. We have about our friends who say nakwente. Now me, I want someone to tell me I am buying 10 books, I am buying 50 books, I am buying 2 or even 1. That is okay, whichever. All right, let me pass this microphone.
Thank you. I am here to represent the head of unit of State House and Corruption Unit, Brigadier General Isoke, and he's buying 6 books at 300,000.
Thank you very much. I request to have a secretary. I request to have a secretary. Yes, the books have actually been delivered. 6 books delivered right there. Owech Tiwa, thank you so much for making time to be with us. Oh yes, the Attorney General of Uganda is buying 5 books, so I request that we will follow up on that to our team, the secretarial team. The Attorney General, Owech Tiwa, is buying 5 books. Okay, we need a receipt. Team, we need a receipt. I am still looking out for more books, please. It's okay for you to buy 2. It's okay for you to buy 100 copies. It's okay for you to buy 1 copy because that's the reason we are here. So I am waiting to see another hand. If not, I will just pass the microphone. Okay, Uncle is here. Let's listen to him.
Badde wano kojja omwana n'agamba tayagala kugulayo kopi emu naye wanedda
sebo nazze nazo yesebo kopi emu okwagira mukulu wange
ano kojja w'omwana aguzeeyo kopi emu naggwamu naye nange mukyala wange tasobodde kubeera wano waliwo ebikutte naye yabadde yayogedde edda ne Alex naye kopi ya 20 babiri ogambye jangu wano jangu ono muwala wange Lilian Babirye Namulindwa mama w'omwana mbadde ngenda mugulirayo copies naye nenzijukira nti namufumbiza mwami Kaweesa ono agambye nti akyamubanja akyabanja Kaweesa agamba mwami Kaweesa nga tanaba kusasula bbanja asooke olangirire ze yaweera katabo ka mutabani wammwe
tugenda gulayo kopi 5.
Namuyomba waali jangu babiri oli nakamyawe Gertrude Namuyomba Nakamya yali emikono wa mwana naye abadde ayagala kugula copies naye sizitegedde.
Tujja kugulayo kopi 5.
Nakayiza mpita beninako obuyinza bwokka eri sino naawe nkulinako obuyinza eri nakuwolayo tebammalangayo kati ono mwannyina wooli akola mu Ministry of Internal Affairs wazze nammeka
twali twagula dde obutabo ku Council Alex naye tujja kwongerayo obulala.
Gloria Nanyonga aliwa yange wano from Uganda Airlines kakati atubuulire agula mu $1 oba yazze anywedde.
Nja kugulayo 3 copies.
3 copies okuva ku mwannyina kati nno oba babadde bawandiika ani treasurer agenda okujja zino ewange ezanga ne onangambye mu n'abaana si baana bakulu nga mmutwala eri nannyini muzindaalo guno ne beninako obuyinza bampeddeko.
Bwewawa omukyala alabika azeggulayo obutabo. Ladies and gentlemen, ala n'abaami nzuuno akazindaalo nkyakalina twetaagayo abagula copies. Nze nno amaaso gange gayinza okukusiima n'enkuwa akazindaalo. Bakanso. We want to support Alex to continue writing. Remember, Major Witch said Alex needs to write more and more editions of the same book. Twinayo abali emabega eyo. Oyinza otuwaamu ente ne tugitunda ne tugula obutabo. My other friends, the other friends of mine of the club of Nakwent. Oyinza okutuwaamu ente ne tugitunda oba ne tugibaaga ne tutunda ennyama. All right, but I kindly and highly request that each one of us goes with 1 copy of the book. Oba waliyo nga gwe kale toyagala gula katabo oyina copy already, but you can tell us you're giving us 1 million, 10 million, 500,000. Oyinza notuwa ezisigaddemu eza transport ez'amafuta. All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for sparing off all the time to be with us. We have tea.